So even as we speak, Lieutenant General Harinder Singh, the commander of the Fire and Fury Corps based at Leh, is heading towards Chushul-Moldo border post meeting point. That is where the senior most general of the Indian Army in Ladakh and the Chinese Army of South Xinjiang region will be meeting. Major General Lee Liu, we are told, is the Chinese general who's coming for the talks, and the effort will be to reduce tension along the line of actual control. Many say it's easier said than done, given that the Chinese have brought more than a brigade plus near Pengongso and another brigade near Galwan, the two major flashpoints in the Ladakh sector. There are also intelligence reports about activities seen close to the line of actual control, but of course on the Chinese side in southern Ladakh, in the Chumur area also. Now, some of these were flashpoints in the past. For example, in Depsang and Chumar, 2013 and 14, there was a face-off. Then in Doklam in Sikkim, opposite Sikkim, Bhutan and China near the Tri-Junction, there was a face-off in 2017. And of course, this flashpoint in Galwan, even as we speak. What is India's game plan? I quickly want to cut across to India Today's Abhishek Bhalla, joining us with the latest on that big story. Abhishek, what more can you tell us? We are told that the talks were scheduled for around 9:30 but postponed for around 11. The reason for the postponement and what's likely to happen now?
The talks will start any time from now. That's what we are hearing. And, the big issues on the agenda from the Indian point of view are restoration of status quo as of April. That's something that India doesn't want to, compromise on. Also, the fact that there was a big build-up from both the sides, and there were artillery as well as armored movement that was done close to the line of actual control. So that's something that India will ask for, hoping that the two sides back off. Third very important point, Gaurav, is that there will be an appeal to convince the Chinese side that all the construction, road construction that was happening, infrastructure development that was happening close to the line of actual control, to which the Chinese had objected in eastern Ladakh. India will say that, this is on our side of the LAC. This is territory that we have been controlling for many, many years. So China should not have a problem with this. Fourth point, of course, is the big face-off at Pengong Lake, because that's somewhere where China has made a serious attempt to change status quo. They have been camping for the last 1 month now at Finger 4 area. An area which has always been under Indian control.
Okay. Fire and fury from the Indian side, bluff and bluster from the Chinese side. Now, Lieutenant General Harinder Singh is the right man for the right job. A thinking general, someone who understands China, reads them like the back of his hand, has commanded the Fire and Fury Corps, was Director General of Military Intelligence, knows the reality about Chinese preparedness and the situation on ground and the internal trouble that China is facing. I quickly want to cut across to India Today's Akshita Nandgopal as she gives us a pen picture of the Indian co-commander.
Profile of Lieutenant General Harinder Singh, who is attending that meet that is going to happen shortly. So he's the chief, as Gaurav told you, of Leh-based 14 Corps. As Gaurav also told you, is referred to as the Fire and Fury Corps. It's part of the Northern Command, and Lieutenant General Harinder Singh took over last October. He's also held several crucial positions in the army as someone who is an expert on counter-insurgency operations. He's previously been the DG of Military Intelligence. He's also served as the DG of Military Operations. He's overseen logistical operations as well as strategic movement as well. Now, Lieutenant General Harinder Singh has also commanded a brigade on the UN assignment in Africa. This was in Congo. Besides that, I also, of course, mentioned that he's an expert in counter-insurgency as well as operational readiness. So that is a brief profile of Lieutenant General Harinder Singh.
India Today has the biggest team of reporters on ground, the best team of analysts to help us make sense of Chinese actions, India's reactions and the road ahead. I want to quickly bring in Lieutenant General Vinod Bhatia, former Director General of Military Operations. I also have Lieutenant General Syed Atta Hasnain, former Chinar Corps Commander, joining me on the broadcast. We also have General D.B. Shiketkar, who commanded the 4 Corps in the Northeast, joining us on the broadcast. But General Bhatia, to you first. What realistically could emerge from these talks?
But it's difficult to say the end result and outcome of this talk right now. But the fact is, as long as we are talking, things are improving. Military and diplomacy go hand in hand. Yesterday we had the diplomatic level talks with the Joint Secretary East Asia and his counterpart in Beijing, Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And today we are having the meeting of the Corp commanders across from the other side. So the fact is that we are talking with the 8th series of talks at the borders. So India's stance is categorically clear. Status quo is what India is looking at, and India's position is very, very clear. No blinking, no mention. Whatever we have done has been equitable and proportional deployment, and China initiated the invasion, China initiated the deployment, and we have stood firm both on the ground and in the flag meeting. And there is a way forward. Definitely, both sides will definitely have a very candid, constructive, and cordial discussion today. They will chart out the way forward, how to go about it. And this, of course, will back simultaneously at the diplomatic level, and we'll definitely find a diplomatic military solution to this based on the strategic guidance given by the two leaders, Mr. Modi and Mr. Xi Jinping, Wuhan, in the formal summit. But what is different, Gaurav, is that this is the first time that such information is taken place after the Wuhan meeting. Post-Wuhan. As also, these are different from the earlier ones, Delhi, Consumer, or even Europe for that matter, in that these are simultaneously at a places, as also the scope
General, there's a very important point that you make here, that both sides are talking about Wuhan spirit. And yesterday, when the joint secretaries of the Ministry of External Affairs from the Indian side and the Chinese side, they had a video conference. India talked about the Wuhan spirit and don't let differences become disputes. General Hasnain, it seems it's only India that doesn't want to let differences become dispute, and China with impunity continues to violate the sanctity of the line of actual control as and when it desires, and creates new areas of friction. Galwan was never an area of friction post 1962, but it's been introduced in 2020.
No doubt, Gaurav, that from the Indian side, there has been every effort to try and ensure stability and peace and tranquility on the line of actual control. And it's generally been from the Chinese side that all initiatives have taken place. Maybe perhaps only at Dockland that the Indian side was a little proactive in preventing the construction of the road which was taking place there on Bhutanese territory. But today the scenario, Gaurav, has actually clearly changed. And although we are talking about the Wuhan spirit and we are talking about the Malalapuram spirit, China is clearly under pressure. Internationally, geopolitically, things have changed a lot in the last 6 months. And the Chinese are feeling under pressure, and they feel that if they don't hit out at this time, they don't set new narratives, they may just be caught napping. And I suspect that they tried to experiment this first with India, particularly expressing, since they had reasons to express that the Indian side had ramped up its overall capability, its infrastructure and things like that. They are now looking for ways and means of how to keep a level of tension alive at the line of actual control.
But would this then not be counterproductive for China? Instead of having India as a friend, it will have India that will look at China in a very, will be wary of China, and not just militarily, diplomatically, people to people. This is 70 years of India-China diplomatic relations, General Hasnain. Yesterday the Chinese were claiming that the giant ship of India-China relations should sail in the right direction, but it's hitting rocks in the high Himalayas, General Hasnain.
Gaurav, you see, walking the talk, in these kind of situations is not always true. Because you may find that the Chinese side may speak something on the diplomatic angle, they may speak to our diplomats, but on ground things will manifest in a slightly different way. All of us who are involved with security management understand this thing. There is no doubt there is a tremendous amount of advantage for China to have India on its side, but it suspects, somewhere down the line it suspects that India has not achieved its true aspiration, and that this aspiration will be achieved at some stage in the future, not the near term, but possibly the long term. And they want to make sure that they keep India cowed down, does not allow India to partner with potential adversaries such as the United States and Japan, etc. And therefore, this is kind of a subtle messaging from time to time. And while yet retaining the hope that economically there will be a good relationship, politically we'll continue to maintain our relations, and once in a while every year a subtle messaging will continue to be played out at the line of actual control.
Is this now then being counterproductive from China? Because for China, because now let's take a look at what's happening. From Depsang to Chumar, we saw this in 2013 and 14, to Doklam in 2017, and incidentally Lieutenant General Abhay Krishna, who was Army Commander Eastern Command at a time when finally Doklam was resolved, joins us on the broadcast. General Krishna, even in Doklam, Indian Army mobilized artillery and armor. What was the thought process at that time? What should be India's thought process now?
If I have heard you correctly, you have asked me that why did we mobilize? Yeah, because you see, you have to give a message very firmly to them that we are ready to hold on. And that message had to be given by building up. But I must also tell you here, caution you here, that let us not compare the Doklam issue with the Ladakh issue. Doklam issue was a totally different issue because there was involvement of a third country. Here it is a direct confrontation between them and us, where they have entered into our territory, so they have to be pushed back. There is no other option. So if you have to build up, then you please build up to give them a very, very clear message that war is also a tool of diplomacy. So if the talks on the table fail, then we are ready to go ahead to any extent.
Okay, that's a very important point you make, and I want to come back to General Bhatia. General Bhatia, one thing is clear. India wants peace, but India, should we be in a hurry to resolve whatever crisis is building up, because there may be an odd headline which may be considered to be unnerving, or should India be prepared for the long haul? Doklam lasted 73 days, Sumdrongchu lasted over a year. We should just be prepared to stay there for much longer and then see how things build up, and let's see if China wants to withdraw. We should not buckle under Chinese pressure.
Gaurav, we are prepared for a long haul, and to that we should have no doubts about it. We are fully prepared for a long haul, but we would like an early resolution, whether it's and a rightful, just resolution, a mutually acceptable resolution. That is more important, and that is status quo ante. And then other issues can be resolved in a later time frame. But the first thing is to ensure a status quo ante as of April of 2020. And for this, we are prepared to be there for the next 1 day, the next 1 month, the next 1 year. And India has shown the resolve that its positions are very, very clear. The narrative which India has got is absolutely clear, and we are not going to budge from that. The key issue still remains that as to what would China want from us. I think it was your channel only and India Today only, when someone said that India does not understand China. Let me also say China also now does not understand India, because they should understand that India will do everything to safeguard its interests and ensure that we maintain peace and tranquility. So we have to build capabilities, we have to be there, we have to ensure that we deter China's aggressiveness.
Yes.
China has got us in too many pies, whether it's North Korea, whether it's Taiwan, South China Sea, Hong Kong, So it's all doing a number of things are going on. And in the post-COVID-19 world order, China will definitely need India more than India needs China. So peace and tranquility is good for both countries. We are neighbors.
And that, if China needs India,
so we should be looking ahead at the well-being of our people, at the growth of
yes,
people. This is
yes.
exactly what
No, General, the point that you make, if China needs India, this is no way. This is no way to seek India's help. I mean, you cannot transgress our borders again and again and again and then expect India to help you at the World Health Organization or give you a bigger pie in India's trade. And that's the message. General, you've made a very important point, and I want to bring in my colleague Shiv Arur on this point. Shiv, when many people say India does not understand China, on the contrary, in the past few decades, India has studied China very closely. India understands China. It is perhaps China that does not understand this new India with a firm resolve, because India knows, Shiv, that Xi Jinping is in trouble internally. His economy is in doldrums. He's facing trouble. There's trouble on the South and East China Sea front, and he needs India more than India needs him, perhaps.
You know, Gaurav, you're absolutely right when you say that the one thing that has changed dramatically since the 60s and 70s is that India is no pushover. In fact, a very credible assessment of this current standoff, a global expert in the current standoff, Gaurav, has been that China has actually been surprised by India's response in terms of infrastructure, in terms of its own mobilization, in terms of it sending out a message that it will continue to build this infrastructure. What India has basically done is throw China's playbook, back at them. So if you look at China only respecting strength, what this standoff shows is that India has recognized that old theory about China and really put it into practice. Now, going forward, to see whether that strength can translate into a kind of mutual respect that can help create a situation where disputes of this kind don't happen more is a bit of a moonshot, Gaurav, because China is a strange country. Its intentions largely remain unclear. It has hegemonic aspirations, not just in Ladakh, but also the South China Sea, which I might add is an even bigger issue of concern, where, as you rightly pointed out, India has been making movements with other countries for the Quad recently. To look at Ladakh in just an isolated manner would be a mistake. But on the table in front of India right now is an awareness that there are many pressure points for China. The very fact that the Ladakh operation by the Chinese army comes under the Central Military Commission, which is handled directly by the Chinese premier, means this is not a one-off thing. This is not an aberration. This is very much by design and very much part of China's larger picture. And India has recognized that. So you're absolutely right. India is not a deer in the headlights here. It knows exactly what's going on, and now to fix the problem.
Oh, absolutely. And Shujaul Haq joins me from Srinagar for more on what's expected, what's on the table as far as India and China are concerned. Shuja, take it away. Tell us what your sources are telling you about India telling China thus far and no further.
Well, Gaurav, over past few days, we've been constantly talking to a lot of people who are in the know of things, on the ground. What we've been able to gather is that there are a few things very clear. Number one, the focus of the Indian side is going to try and achieve some sort of a de-escalation on the ground, particularly at these flashpoints. Number two, of course, both sides, or at least the Indian side, wants a resolution which is lasting. But many experts say that perhaps in this particular meeting, that would be, little far-fetched to assume would be achieved. They're saying that if the de-escalation happens at this level, that would be a beginning of some sort of a possibility of certain frameworks perhaps to be made for future agreements, which so far have not happened. Of course, finally, there is a very strong sense that, come what may, the guard on the ground here at various levels would not be lowered, because that's a sense that India wants to send across, that it's firm against anything that comes across on this line of actual control.
Okay. Army Commander, Northern Command, Lieutenant General Y.K. Joshi, he's a veteran of that battlefield. He's a veteran. He's served in China as India's defense attaché, speaks the Mandarin language. He commanded a brigade there. He's commanding the corps. He commanded the corps. Now he's commanding the army. He's a veteran of the Kargil war. He's also tracking developments very, very closely. So China would well know. India understands China very well. But this isn't about an isolated incident taking place in the high Himalayas in Ladakh. There's a lot that's happening across the world. A quick break. On the other side of this break, we'll tell you turmoil in China. We'll tell you about turmoil in China. We'll also tell you what's happening in the South China Sea, the East China Sea, and why China is very wary of US President Donald Trump inviting India for G7 and the India-Australia summit that recently took place. Stay with us.
Hi everyone, Preeti Chaudhary here. Hope you like this video. For latest news and analysis, like and subscribe to the India Today YouTube channel. And don't forget to press the bell icon to stay updated. Thank you for watching.